Welcome back to the Desk Talk Podcast with your hosts, Trent Werner and Alex Magala, bringing you weekly episodes talking business, personal development, and all things real estate. Let's do it! Hey, we're at the desk. Let's talk. Let's do it. Okay. Today, we're going to give you a freaking crash course on the real estate lingo. Lingo, Duolingo.
You got to roll your Ringo.
No, I'm not saying gringo. I'm saying lingo.
I'm saying Ringo. Like Ringo's Bar and Grill. I want to play pool there. We should go and play pool there.
I don't even know
we'll
where that's
schooled.
at.
Downtown Beaverton. Shout out Ringo's. Anyways.
No free ads. Polar.
No free ads. It's literally a barn. Anyways.
All right. I'm going to just start rattling off
Terms.
Terms.
Things that a lot of people ask questions about.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people look at you like you're crazy. I mean, this is industry to industry. Everyone has their condensed, like little three-letter
AGI
acronyms.
is a tax one.
It's acronyms.
Learned that last night.
Yeah.
AGI stands for Adjusted Gross Income.
The acronyms of your industry. And we're just here to debunk. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of the right word for this. Define. That's what I'm looking for. We're here to define all these terms.
We want to make life easier for you when you get to the step of your lives where you're going to buy a house or sell a house or invest in real estate. And, there's some common terms that are thrown around that may not be so common for other people. So let's just go back and forth, huh?
Yeah.
I'll do one, you do one. Maybe I do two, you do two. We're going to feel it out. We're just going to feel it out, all right? First one, EMD. E as in elephant, M
Mary
as in Mary, and D as in dinosaur. Stands for earnest money deposit. The earnest money deposit is basically your down payment to your down payment. It shows that you got some skin in the game when you're submitting an offer. You say, hey, my down payment is going to be $50K. I'll put $5,000 down as my earnest money deposit directly with escrow when the offer is accepted, and that shows that you have skin in the game. That money is at stake if you are to back out of the deal after the inspection period is up. Or you get to the day before closing, you say, halt, I'm not going to do it anymore. Now the seller's entitled to that earnest money deposit. That's number one. Alex, fire away.
D as in dog, T as in tat, and I as in income, debt to income ratios. This is a common one that I get questions about, and it's essentially you can calculate your front end ratio by taking your monthly income and subtracting your debts from it and dividing by, I'm blanking on exactly what you divide by. Anyways, it calculates basically it shows a lender like how much money you make and how much debts you have compared to it. So if your debt to income ratio is at 48%, that means that about almost half of your income goes to debts every month or your house every month. So your ratios is what matters to qualify. Most programs are strict and hard. For example, conventional, it's pretty strict at like 45. Obviously, I've gotten some people up to 48 and even 49. But that's what we like to call house rich. You're going to be living off of ramen at that point. Not literally, but you might. So your debt to income ratios is what kind of matters to qualify.
It shows the strength of borrower.
It affects your rate. It affects if you don't put 20% down, it affects your mortgage insurance. If you've got high ratios and then you have to go out and get mortgage insurance, are you good?
I got an eyelash in my eye, I think.
Then your rate your mortgage insurance is affected by it. So your debt to income ratios matter. Don't go out and finance a ton of stuff if you know that you only make $4,000 a month. Don't go. Yes, the $150 a month payment over a long period of time sounds better. It might not be best for you to just buy that. Maybe wait until your income gets to a higher level.
And that is why lenders will tell you not to go finance a boat or an ATV right before you close on a house.
Or anything for that matter.
Yeah. Pay cash or don't buy anything at all. Next, pending. These ones kind of run together. Actually, these next three kind of run together. So
lump them.
I'm just going to throw them all out. Pending, contingent, and bumpable buyer. Pending means that the house that you wanted to get so bad has an accepted offer on it with someone else. So it is pending the sale to a buyer. The house is in contract, basically. Contingent is where you write an offer, but you have to sell your house that you currently live in to get those funds to buy the new house that you're writing an offer on. So your offer is contingent. Bumpable buyer means a seller has accepted an offer that is contingent, aka the buyer of the house that you want to buy needs to sell their house before they can buy the house that you want to buy so bad, but it's already pending with a contingent offer that is a bumpable buyer. What a bumpable buyer means is they may have the property in contract to buy and it's pending, but the offer is contingent, and they're bumpable, meaning they can be bumped out of first position if you come in not having to sell your house first, and you can close on it without having any contingencies. You can bump them out of that first position, aka they are a bumpable buyer.
Yeah, we saw a lot of those when we were offering on properties. For me, it was a lot of pending, a lot of contingent, and then a lot of them that said, bumpable buyer.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone that if you come in and beat their offer, then you could win.
Yep.
For me, my next one is going to be P and I. I'm going to lump this together with PITIA. So it's your principal and interest payment. I say P&I payment. Not a lot of people understand it, but principal and interest, that's basically essentially how much is your loan amount? Here's your rate. This is your principal and interest. This is what's going down to pay your loan down, and this is what's going to interest. Now, when you say your PITIA payment or your PITIA payment, that's your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and your HOA fees, if applicable. So
the A stands for and?
No. A is like HOAs.
Oh.
It's just it doesn't have a good flow if you put H or O, like PITIO. It's PITIA.
PITOA.
PITIA payments. And yeah, so that's include your whole payment, including your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, and if there's HOA fees or dues on the property, that's going to be your total kind of payment that goes into escrow and everything. I guess I should probably not keep going into that. Escrow is going to be another.
Well, let's just hit escrow right now.
Do you have it on your list?
I do. Why don't you take it away, though? I just rattled off 3.
Well, escrow on my end, what is going to be included in escrow is your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance.
Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, you need to define it?
Beep, beep. I'm back. I'm reversing right now.
Do you need to define it?
Escrow is a neutral third party that holds the funds.
Yeah, see, that's the
for
real
the
estate
sale.
side. Dick. My side was still correct. Don't back it up on me like that.
You're defining it too early.
No, not from the lending side. You said to go define it.
Well, no, the basic level. Escrow is a company that is a neutral third party. So basically, as a buyer, you're not going to just give the seller a $5,000 check for your earnest money, because then they could just pocket it and launder it and all that good stuff. You are going to deposit it with escrow, who's going to hold it. They're going to receive the funds from the lender when it comes time, and then they're going to disperse it to the seller. They're going to balance everything out. They're going to record the title and insurance and all that good stuff.
So next time when Trent wants to tell me to go first, he should go first. Anyways,
what is
escrow
included for escrow?
On the lending side, what I was saying beforehand is your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. And like sometimes people put their HOA dues in there. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of times it can be lumped in, but they can. That's going to be what's your monthly payment. So essentially, it's what your reserves start with. You have to start a reserve account, and your reserve account is going to be held with escrow. Mm-hmm. Now, there's people out there in the world who don't like escrow, because essentially what it is you're giving someone else your money to hold on to for a year period to then pay your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance, because they're due quarterly, annually. And for example, my parents, they don't like to give someone else their money and hold on to it. They'd rather not escrow and hold on to the money and pay them when they know they need to pay them. So your escrow account is what holds your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance.
Is there a fee associated with not escrowing your property taxes and insurance?
There is. You pay a 0.25%, so 0.0025 hit to your loan amount. So take your loan amount and multiply by 0.0025. It's usually under $1,000, and it's a little bit cheaper to go that route than starting your escrow account and dumping $3,000 or $4,000 into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just how people look at it. Some people can't be trusted and actually so I guess if you don't put 20% down, you don't have the option of waiving your escrow account or not. Like you have to have 20% down to waive it. If you're putting 3% down, you're starting an escrow account because You're less in a lender's eyes. You're not likely to.
You're more risky.
You're more risky. You're not likely to pay those property taxes and homeowners insurance. So yes, that is important to know.
Wholesale real estate. If you need a refresher, go check my Instagram at realtor Trent W. I'll have a video for you when you get there. Wholesale real estate is a middle man or middle woman or middle they that basically puts a deal together. So they're going out, they're door knocking, they're sending flyers, mailers, phone calls. They're finding properties to get in contract to assign to investors. Basically what this looks like, let's say you have a rundown, beat up property that the wholesaler is going to get under contract, an assignable contract for $100K. They're then going to send it out to all their investors and list it for $120K with the investors. The investors are happy as a clam because now they have a new flip property or buy and hold or BRRRR that they can go buy. They're going to buy it for $120K happily because they didn't have to go do the legwork to find the deal. The $120K is going to go into escrow. At escrow, 20 of it is going to go to the wholesaler, and then the $100K that the original contract was for is going to go to the owner of the property or the seller. That's what wholesale real estate is.
Boom. Mortgage insurance. I already touched on it a little bit ago, but mortgage insurance, if you don't put 20% down, you're going to have what's called mortgage insurance. And if you're going to get into an FHA loan, doesn't matter if you put 3% down, 5% down, 10% down, you're going to have mortgage insurance and for the life of the loan. So it doesn't disappear when you get to 20% down payment. On the flip side, conventional, if you put 3% down, you're going to carry what's private mortgage insurance, and that private mortgage insurance falls off at 20% equity. So mortgage insurance, a lot of people, that's like the biggest myth in our industry for lending is that you need the 20% down and mortgage insurance is going to screw you. But if you really look at it, mortgage insurance, $150 a month over 3 years. What is that, like $5,400? Am I doing my math correct? Let's see. We have our phones right here. We might as well just make sure.
Pretty close.
150 times 12 times 3. Yeah, $5,400 in a 3-year period. Usually how long it takes someone if they put 3% down to pay off to get to 20%. $5,400 versus your appreciation here in the state of Oregon, it was like 20. What is the average? I shared it on my story. 27,000. So is it worth it to spend $5,400 or $1,800 a year, whatever it is, to get 26,000 average?
26,300. Yeah.
So it's just like people freak out about mortgage insurance, but in reality, it's like mortgage insurance is worth it. It gets you into the game and it shows the lender that you're willing to keep your skin in the game and you're not going to get cold feet and run really quickly.
It's basically like the earnest money deposit, but for your loan.
For lending.
Yeah. And it's every month. Capital gains tax.
You could pay it off up front. That's okay. Another, I mean, you could pay a portion down up front. I mean, there's ways to look at paying mortgage insurance. You don't have to pay it just monthly. There's a split. There's a buy down. Like, there's ways to look at it. So that's where it was like when you're trying to get creative with deals, like if your mortgage insurance is like $350 a month, like I was just helping one of our buddies out, if it's that high, like split buy down where you pay down half of it up front. Yeah, it's going to be like, $3 or $4K up front, but then it's just it makes that monthly payment a little bit cheaper. So it's just, there's kind of a game to mortgage insurance.
Capital gains tax. This is the tax that you pay if you sell real estate or other assets, businesses, stocks, whatever, if you've held them or owned them more than 12 months. So over a year, you're going to pay capital gains tax when you sell it. Side note, if a property is your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years, you get $250,000 of capital gains tax free. So if you bought a house for $300, lived in it for 2 years, and all of a sudden it's worth $550 as a single person, you don't pay any capital gains tax. If you are married or a joint couple, you get $500,000 of capital gains tax free if it's been your primary residence 2 of the last 5 years. Alex, I got one to throw at you. LTV.
Good thing, because I was sitting here like, what's my next one? LTV, loan to value. So essentially what the loan to value means is if you're going to put 10% down on a house, you have 90% loan to value. So your loan to value is just showing you your equity position versus what the home is worth. So if you're putting 15% down, your loan to value is 85%, so on and so forth.
So when he was talking about mortgage insurance, if you get a conventional loan, let's say you put 10% down and the mortgage insurance drops off at 80% LTV or 20% down, that's what we're talking about.
Boom.
I got another one for you.
Okay.
What's a refinance?
A refinance, yeah. So a refinance is essentially but that's the thing. Oh man, this is gonna get tricky here because last year was a killer year for refinances because where rates were. Most people were refinancing for a rate and term, and they're driving their rate down, which in turn got them a cheaper payment. Now you're gonna start to see. I mean, people are gonna refinance or have to refinance, and they were in a 2 range and they're refinancing into a 3 range, so their payment's actually gonna go up, but essentially, a refinance can do a lot. You can pull cash out, and you can pay off debts that are at a higher interest rate. So, for example, there's a lot of people out there that rack up a ton of credit card debt, and their home is far cheaper to borrow under than it is credit card-wise at 15 to 26%, whatever they charge on credit cards. So they will refinance, pull cash out, and pay off their credit card debts. Now, there's a lot of people out there that don't have that problem, and they're strictly doing rate and terms, where that's just trying to get a better payment and a better rate. Now, points. That's another one I was going to add in, but go ahead.
Nitty gritty. One thing to note, cash out refinances, if you've owned a property for a long time, can be a great way to get capital to go invest in other ventures.
Correct. And you could drive up to most lenders, most programs will let you drive up to 80% loan to value on a cash out. And we're using all these terms, so you're catching our lingo. But there's specific programs out there. For example, like there's a jumbo program out there that, you can get out to like 90%, which is pretty bonkers. So if someone's got $1 million property and they owe $400,000 on it, they can go out and take a loan for $900K and pocket that $500 and go do something with it. So it's just like each lender has different requirements because of investors in the end. But yep.
Another thing to note about a cash out refinance, if you, let's say we'll use your example, you get $500,000 cash out, that's tax free because it's a loan. It's not income. So,
yep, and go and dump it into another property.
Yep. ARV stands for after repair value. So if you're a flipper or you're a burr investor or you just want to buy a property that's beat up and make it worth more and live in it as your primary residence, the ARV is your after repair value. So when you're underwriting a deal, you're doing all your numbers, you say, hey, I can buy this place for $100K. I put $50,000 into it, and my ARV is going to be $250 or $300, whatever your ARV numbers are going to be. That's after repair value. That comes more into play when you're really talking about flips and buy and rehab properties.
Came into play when we were looking at my property.
Yep.
That's all that real estate agent was hung up on.
Yep.
The ARV.
Yep. The other one I have is hard money or private money. So Alex works as a conventional financing lender.
Residential home lender.
Yep. Hard money or private money, you'll hear it in the investment world a lot. It's where you go to a company or your uncle that's loaded or whoever, and you're getting a hard money or private money loan. Typically, you're going to go buy a wholesale deal or a dilapidated property that doesn't qualify for conventional financing. So that's the other thing to note. Not all properties you can go to Alex and get financing on. If you got something where there's mold and it's been burned down twice and only one door is left standing, you're probably not going to be able to get a conventional loan from the bank on that. So that's where you're going to have to go to hard money or private money. A couple things to note. Typically, the rates are significantly higher than when you're working with Alex. Shorter terms usually. So like I've used hard money loans that are only good for 3 years instead of 30. There's also programs that are good for a year or 6 months if it's a quick turnaround.
They're a bridge. They use hard money. Most people don't use hard money for the long term. They use it to bridge to get it at least conventionally financeable, and then they put a forward mortgage from me on it. So,
for example, I used private money to fix up a property, and 7 months later we refinance with a conventional forward mortgage. Alex, appraisal. A lot of people know what the word appraisal means, but how does it work in the real estate game?
Yeah, so when you go to purchase a property, you're going to agree on a price, and then that price comes back to me. I am going to plug it into my mortgage software, and then essentially I'm going to order an appraisal. And that appraisal, all it's doing is going to verify that the price that you agreed upon is actually held in that value. Because as a lender, we can't go out and you're going to buy a $500,000 house, but it's only worth $300,000. We can't lend on that $500,000. We can lend on $300,000 because that's the collateral we know we will get back if the home sells. If you are bidding that, this is where it comes into play, and I just made a post about it today. If you are bidding on homes,
what's your Instagram?
Alex Magala Mortgages. Bidding on homes, and you're bidding above asking, and the home doesn't appraise for what you're bidding at asking, and it's whatever the difference is, you have to meet that difference, or else you're going to have to walk from that deal. And there's a lot of people that get cold feet because they don't have the 50, 60, 70K that they're bidding above asking, and the home doesn't appraise for that value. So it's big in the lending world. The appraisal is going to usually reflect what's on the purchase agreement most of the time. Granted, there are situations where people agree to a higher price and it doesn't, and that's where they have to meet the difference. So an appraisal is essentially just confirming the value of the home so that the lender can feel comfortable lending on it.
I do want to add one thing to appraisal is appraisal shortfall. So just like Alex is talking about, right now it's super competitive. Let's say the place was listed at 500 or 300, and you want it so bad that you're going to offer 500 on it, and it appraises at 300. Now there's an appraisal shortfall of $200,000. So like he's talking about, either the buyer comes with $200K cash to bridge that gap, or the seller comes down to $300K or $400 if you have an extra $100 to somehow bridge that gap. So that's what an appraisal shortfall is. Owner occupied. So it's pretty straightforward. An owner occupies the property. You hear more about it in an investment niche because you can owner occupy a 2, 3, or 4 unit and still get the same financing from Alex that you would on a single family house. So it's a great way to start your investment portfolio.
It increases, like the loan limits increase on those
properties. There's definitely some benefits to doing it from an investment standpoint, but also from a lending standpoint. You can get a better rate than having to go put 25% down like you would for an investment loan or commercial loan. But owner occupied is basically when an owner lives in one of the units that they own in a 2, 3, or 4 unit small multifamily property.
Jumbo. These loans are essentially what jumbo means in the lending world is as soon as you cross that threshold of 548,250, it's 548,250 and a penny, you're now what's considered jumbo financing. So if you want to stay in conventional financing where there's the better rates, it's, conventional financing is what every investor wants to buy your loan from because it's a sound way. They know that, it's a primary residence. It's likely going to get paid back over time. They're going to get their money, and it's a sound investment. When you start to creep up there and you get into these $1 million loans and you're getting these jumbo loans, it's a little bit riskier, more money at the plate, and it's a longer period or that their money's up there. If you're lending $300,000 versus $1 million, most people want to lend $300,000 and collect their cash versus the $1 million. It's more cash out of their pocket. So when you get into jumbo, you're going to have higher rates. You're going to have stricter qualifications. Self-employed borrowers struggle a lot to get into jumbo financing.
Reserves.
You're going to have like 6 months plus of reserves. Jumbo financing, if you are up in that $1 million range, you have to have a 20% down payment. Actually, psych that. I have a program that can do 15%, so 85% loan to value. Just got a closed loan on that. But for example, if you're purchasing a house at $600,000, you don't have to put 20% down. Your down payment's not going to equal 20%. You just got to bring it down to that 548,250. So if you jumbo right now due to COVID, you're going to have a little bit struggle getting qualified for it, but you can always drive it down to conventional financing with a down payment, and that's what a lot of people do. Most people, it's like a 12% down payment is like where 600, 630, 12 or 13 gets you to 548,250. And that's all you have to get down to, and then your loan's good.
House hack goes along with owner occupied. Again, it's an investment term. Typically, it's coined and developed by the bigger pockets people. House hack is basically when you buy a house and rent out the rooms and collect rent revenue from the rooms that you're renting out to buddies or Airbnbs or whatnot. Or the other version of house hacking is basically owner occupying a 2, 3, or 4 unit property where you are living in one unit and renting out the other units and collecting rent revenue from it. Kind of going along and staying in the investment lingo is BRRRR. I know we've done a whole episode on the BRRRR strategy. Again, it's a bigger pockets terminology. It stands for buy, rehab, rent out, refinance, repeat. So you're in essence going to buy a property. You're going to make it look a lot nicer through the rehab process. You're going to rent it out so it looks good to the banks. And then you're going to refinance, whether it's a cash out. Typically, people will do a cash out refinance when they're doing a BRRRR. And then they're going to go repeat it because they just pulled cash out. So they pulled the initial investment that they bought it with back out to go buy in another property. One example would be, let's use a $100,000 property, right? You are going to go put $25K down. You're going to put 25 into it to make it look nicer. You bought it for 100. So you've all in cash is $50K because you renovated in down payment. And then you're going to go refinance it once it's worth $250, and you can pull a bunch of cash back out and get your capital. Now you own the property with zero cash invested. Your cash on cash return is going to be to the moon when you do that.
Yeah, and people are going to ask, like, well, how if you only have 100,000? When you put that 25 into it, you're increasing the value of your home. So you're doing things that are going to make it now worth 200,000, so you can get that 100,000 out and go dump it into another house.
Mm-hmm.
Forbearance is a word that we can talk about. It's obviously it's not something that was been around for forever. It just kind of started due to COVID. But forbearance is essentially the program that allows people who are struggling with their mortgage payments to defer them to a later date. There's like three different. I don't know if they're still all active. It was big as soon as COVID hit. Like you could choose, like, you're either going to do like an income-driven repayment forbearance plan, or you're just like literally deferring those months that you're missing to the end of your loan. There was another one. I can't remember them all exactly. I didn't have anyone that needed to go into them, thankfully. But now that COVID's starting to kind of get fixed or get solved, things are getting open back to normal. People are having to figure out like what they're doing and get out of these forbearance programs. It's the same thing as like the rental forbearance moratorium. People can defer those payments, but it doesn't make sense in the renting world. It didn't make sense to me because they could stack up 12 months of missed payments and then have them due, but then have to literally continue making like the payments going forward. So going to be curious how that works itself out. But like most of the mortgage people, I think how they did them was just deferred them to the end of their loan. So like, if you started with 240 months, those 240 months, it didn't go down. You're just adding more months and interest to your loan. You're paying a lot more interest over the life of your loan. Mm-hmm. So big thing is you can't like refinance. If you're in forbearance, you need to get out of forbearance first. There's a lot of people that didn't need to take forbearance, but just did it because they're like, I don't want to make a mortgage payment. It wasn't a good thing to do, which I think is going to bite a lot of people in the butt.
Same thing happened with a lot of tenants. They kind of took advantage of the eviction moratorium that we had going on, and I've seen people with balances north of $15,000 that they're going to have to pay back in 6 months. As it sits right now, the government is working to get that forbearance repayment period up to 12 months. But, north of $15K on top of your monthly rents is definitely going to be hard for a lot of people. So we'll see how that pans out. That's kind of the everyday terminology that we use.
I'm sure there's a lot more.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure, but like that's going to get you at least talking our lingo.
Mm-hmm.
Like solid talking our lingo from both the lending and the real estate side.
All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week for another episode. We're at the desk and we are done talking. Adios.
Peace. That's the end of today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. It truly means a lot to us. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this with friends. This helps fuel the podcast and gets more and more guests on our show. Hey, go follow us on Instagram as well. Desk Talk Podcast. Go connect with Trent and I as well. We're on Instagram too, LinkedIn, you name it. Stay tuned for more episodes. Peace.